Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the Bible Study Minute. Today we're taking a look at Psalm 119, verses 129 through 176, which is the latter portion of the psalm, as well as Psalm 139. And what we see in Psalm 119 is really a continuation of what we've seen in the psalm already. The psalmist has a delight and reverence for God's word, God's instruction, God's law, and he's doing everything he can to keep it because he wants to stay far away from sin as he possibly can. But at the same time, we also see him crying out to the Lord for rescue because he knows that his enemies are around him, oppressing him, and he wants the Lord to rescue him. And he is trusting in the Lord's promises that he will do that. So that's what we see in the rest of that psalm. And then we get over to Psalm 139, which is a psalm of David. And in this psalm, David exclaims God's omnipresence and God's omniscience, which means that God is all-knowing and that God is everywhere. So what we see here is just David exclaiming those things, saying that God knows his thoughts before he even thinks them, that God was the one who knit him and put him together in his mother's womb. And because of this, God knows everything about him, and he's exclaiming God for those things. And then at the latter portion of the psalm, we see David crying out because this is who God is, because God knows all these things, that he wants God to come against his enemies. Speaking of the enemies of God, not the enemies of David, but David is saying that he aligns with God and that those who hate God and are against him are also David's enemies. So that's what we see in this psalm. But what's our takeaway? Well, if we take these two psalms together, we have to realize that God is everywhere. God knows all things. We cannot hide from God. No matter how far away we want to get from him or think we can hide from him, we can't get away from him. And knowing this, that sin that we think we do in the dark and nobody else sees, God sees it. And we need to keep that in mind. And because of that, we need to be more like the psalmist in Psalm 119, who is constantly trying to do whatever he can to obey the Lord's commands because he takes delight in them and wants to please the Lord. And that's the kind of character that we need to have, knowing that God knows our heart, God knows our thoughts, and God sees every single thing that we do, even if nobody else sees it. God sees it. And that's the kind of life that we need to live, knowing that God sees all, so everything we do ought to be pleasing to him. So that's what I want to leave you with today. And until next time, grace and peace.